My God, this the voice she has.
I
It's
haven't
like,
heard. I've been hearing her a lot lately,
have you?
but not this. I've never heard this
I
before.
must admit, sometimes when I feel a bit, oh my God, I'm gonna say this word, nostalgic, put a song of hers. But Faisal, when you sent me this,
Yeah.
A, I don't know this song. B, said, oh my God, this like really a blast from the past. Why this song? Why
you.
did you share this with us? Why this one?
I don't know. I love Fairuz, and I've loved her since I was really young. And I remember requesting for Fairuz. It was a cassette back then, like my Fairuz cassette in the car on my way back from kindergarten. And since then, I love Fairuz, and there's something about this song where I find it interesting, Kaman, and this is not a song by her husband, and like it's not the Rahmani brothers, it's Philemon Wehbi. So there's another kind of dimension to. I love the build-up of the song. I love how she really takes you on a journey. And I love as well that it's an interesting approach that it's this other composer that maybe has a different approach to sublimating Fairuz's talent, which I also think is interesting. Hala taban, this is me thinking about it now, but I just love the song. Like I don't know, since I discovered it, which is not it's not like a more common Fairuz song, but since I discovered it, I really love it. Like it, I think it's like my top Fairuz song.
Hello and welcome to Forward Moves, hosted by Lina Nahhas and Rasha Haddad, a conversation with our guests about the path of their successful journey, where they started, and what kept them moving forward in an ever-changing environment, and what enabled them to create impact in a space and with themselves that are both in perpetual movements. Hello, Faissal El-Malak, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We are thrilled to have you with us, and thank you so much for your time. And we are so looking forward to talk about all the beautiful things you have achieved throughout your career and still achieving, and most importantly, what keeps you moving forward on this wonderful path. For our listeners and viewers, Faissal El-Malak is a Palestinian artist, healer, and vocalist who grew up between Qatar and Canada and who moved back to the Gulf to launch his fashion brand some 10 years ago after having trained at Atelier Chardon Savard in Paris. A full look from his 2018 Spring-Summer collection was acquired to be part of the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, at the back of him being awarded the Vogue Arabia DDFC prize in the Women Ready-to-Wear category. Faissal also creates with a variety of material and was showcased in the Lisbon Architecture Triennale in 2019 and in the Amman Design Week, culminating in a project with Emirati designer Alia Ben Omer for the Sabil Open Call by Art Jamil and Expo 2020. Their 37 fountains, if I counted them well, were installed across Expo and are now part of its legacy. Faisal's work as a vocalist led to some memorable collaborations, and his film Embroidery for a Long Song won the Emirati Futurism First Prize, and his film The Lizard of My Dream was featured at the Frame Rush Film Festival in London. And I'll pause, Faissal, because this is truly impressive.
Well, how does it feel hearing that lineup of things?
It's interesting because it's like obviously it's my bio that I send to people when they ask me for it, and I don't really think more of it than what it is. What's the measure of success? Like how do you measure success, and what does it mean for me to be considered successful? What does it mean for me to consider myself successful? And where the rift is between these two things. So for me, of course I'm very, very proud of all of these different achievements. And I think it's just like these little building blocks. And yeah, building blocks towards what? I don't know. But I think that's the magic of it, is also starting, and it's interesting to hear this kind of almost chronological achievement listing, where I didn't really imagine that these would come after each other. Like it's always a surprise. Like even though I had general vision, and I still have a general vision of what I want to achieve, but I never imagined that these would be the steps.
When did this beginning of anticipation without knowing, if you like what you've just said, you never imagined, when did it actually begin? When did all of this start for you? Was it in your younger years as a child? Was it more when you were in university? I believe you were in Montreal. Was it when you came back to Dubai after, or where was this starting point for you, this journey?
This journey started, I think, as a dreamer. As a child, I had these dreams of performance. Like I did definitely want to be an artist, even though I couldn't articulate it, and I didn't understand what it really meant. And I didn't even understand that it was possible. But I did have dreams of the results. Like I dreamt that I wanted to sing, and I dreamt that I wanted to perform, and I dreamt that I wanted to not necessarily to make art, because I didn't really understand that much. Then I had to kind of put my foot down and put my foot down for myself as well, and be like, okay, I do not want to do the conventional choices, the safer choices, the choices that would guarantee, a nice, stable lifestyle. And I want to go this other route that I thought would guarantee a nice, stable lifestyle, regardless. But it turns out that, your parents are somewhat right. So if you want a nice, stable lifestyle, go and get yourself a nice, stable job. Don't expect it from your artistic career. However, if this is...
Haven't we heard that enough?
Yeah, but I mean, it's a reality, and this is something that I'm grappling with right now. Like, I just turned 36. I'm like, oh, what does it mean? What does it mean for me to be still kind of floating around and be living this creative lifestyle that I see the people that are, around my age, that are in the similar industry, are also living this floating kind of project to project thing. And I think it's just about making peace with that and being like, well, you know what? This is the life that I chose.
It's interesting, and I do agree with you. You have a very interesting life, and you will only be the judge whether how comfortable it is or not. But by looking at your track record, it's quite impressive. But I picked up two words, and I picked up about you dreamt of the outcome. You had that vision, and you are kind of floating towards it, or you're floating towards that, helping you move forward, keeping that dream ahead, but keeping that state of floating.
I don't know. I don't think I had the luxury of choice, like I think it's also my approach to things. Like I know some people who are extremely determined and very, very like pushy and will really go after what they want. It's not really my character. I'm a floater, like I'm not super pushy, which is something actually that I've been thinking about. Again, like turning 36, I'm like, okay, like, why am I not pushy enough? Like, why am I not out there, networking and it's not even about networking, because I know a lot of people, I'm like, some people are so good at capitalizing on their network and all that stuff. But then I look back and I'm like, what needed to happen and what organically needed to happen happened without it being this strategic thing. And I think there's beauty in things happening through genuine interest and genuine connection, and when things also are not driven by necessarily like, how do I advance my career again, like, this is, how do you measure success? Like, do you want to advance your career in terms of like, do you want to build your profile and make more money and do all of this stuff, or do you want to do things that are fun for you and cool? And and I understand that sometimes you don't have a choice and you have to do all of that other stuff, but I could, have the luxury of being like, you know what, I don't want to do the things that are super annoying, and I want to do
Mm.
in order to advance my profile and in order to like make money. I want to do the things that I think are cool and that I really connect with genuinely. And because I also hate doing things like, I know hate is a big word, but
But it's very
It's a necessary word
it's a very
sometimes.
expressive word.
yeah,
You can't make yourself.
I can't make myself. I really
Mhm,
can't,
mhm,
I'm like,
mm,
oh, it's like
mm.
so cringy and it's just so, I just really dislike it. It's really like in my body, I'm like, I can't just do something. Like I
Yeah.
feel, and maybe it's also like this illusion of like me having a goal, a purpose. But I'm like, no, I want to spend my time doing things that are really fulfilling and not
Mm.
they could be 10% fulfilling, they could be 5% fulfilling, they could be 90% fulfilling, but there needs to be a certain amount of fulfillment for me to be like, okay, I'm going to do this thing.
Faisal, when you said floating and you kept on
Mm.
repeating floating, what I
Mhm.
saw was something floating in the sea, and the sea is always moving. Like it's always on a journey. And what I'm hearing also from you is that when you went, oh, cringy, I felt like somebody stuck in the sea, and it's kind of like you really have a lot of trust. It feels like there's a level of trust that when you soften into what you really want, the waves will take you there. You are floating, but actually, just by reading your bio only at 36, may I say only, so many things you've encountered so many things on your journey, and it seems they've all given you such joy. Am I correct? Like there's a level of trust that seems to come along with this dreaming without a specific destination, but rather allowing the waves to float you towards what you need.
That's absolutely correct. And you know how I learned about the waves?
How? Tell me. How did you learn about the waves? Is it what I'm saying? Is it what I think you're saying?
Is it a five rhythm?
I think.
Is it a
Oh
five?
goodness.
Is it a five rhythm thing
Is it
again?
a five rhythms waves? Okay.
All right.
Wow.
I think I'm going to introduce a different perspective for five rhythms that I know very little
About
about.
flowing. It's about flowing.
When you were talking about you, so it's interesting. It's really interesting, and I know we'll have to come back to your answer to Lina's question, but I wanted to get this through. You saw a sea with waves. I saw a river with a current, and and I think probably what influenced me in seeing a river, two things. One is that it's going somewhere. A river has a destination, whereas a sea probably is more of an open, right? And then when you talked about this kind of that cringiness that you express so in a very very expressive body
Visceral.
language, I imagined like obstacles in the flow of that river, like boulders or which kind of makes the river course correct or overflow it. And I think where I want to go back to is, did you face or do you face such obstacles in your floating, in your state of floating? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack your question, Lina.
Please go ahead and hijack. I think it's a
But,
very nice hijack at this point. I'm curious also.
You do, and I think, I mean, I did definitely, and I think I still do, and I think it's more of, again, this idea of conforming. It's do I
Mm,
want to conform to these boulders? Do I want to follow this path that's drawn out for me, or do I want to float in the sea and just be in this expanse and imagine that I'm not stuck in a river, and it's really, I think it's about mindset.
yeah.
And it's interesting that we have both examples. And because it's also a choice, this context is a choice of whether I want to float within the confines of a path
Yeah.
that's more or less defined with these almost these acceptable obstacles where it's like, okay, I know there is this hurdle, and I know in order to go to this next step, I need to go, through this bend and through this thing, and then I
Yeah.
have to get to this other thing. This kind of more or less linear trajectory. And then there's the other version, which is screw that, like,
Mhm.
Mm, mm,
like just imagine the world as as the world, embrace your experience of the world as this infinite expanse, and see how see where that takes you. And this is the magic that I hope, like, I think, I mean, I was talking to a friend, I was like, am I delusional? Like,
the eternal dreamer.
Yeah, like, I just want the magic. Like, I just want the magical experience and, the random phone call and, meeting someone on a bus and they're like, oh, what do you do? Like, this,
And are you getting some of that magic?
I think I am, yeah. I mean, at another scale, of course, it's not like this fairy tale thing, but on my, in a different way, I am getting magic, and I think, I am.
What are the key moments you think in now retrospecting with this whole list? And I know you also got a scholarship also to get to London. What are the key moments that are to you the magic, the key achievements in this journey for you?
The key moments are asking and receiving, and I think it's whatever it is, whether it's, the scholarship, whether it's, but also it's not only about these things that are outside of the planned conventional things, but it's also applying to things, like if you're applying to an opportunity or a grant or a thing, then, and you get through, it's also cool, like it's okay for the magic to be within the confines of something that's defined, like it doesn't need to always be this, a clearing in the forest and like magical lights and and butterflies, it's okay. You can also apply to something and get a yes, you got in, like, yes, cool, that's magical as well.
I like that. We just went into the Wizard of Oz.
I know. I
just
remember finding Neverland.
Yeah, you took us on a journey there.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to give like one example, it's, for example, getting through to, there was a VNA 2-week workshop with Gulf-based designers, so like applying to that, being accepted to that, going there, forging these connections. 6 months later, the head at that time, Salma Khan, of the Middle East department, she's like, oh, we're putting things through acquisitions, and send me your portfolio, like what's going on. And then 6 months later, being part of the collection. I mean, that was like the most magical thing that could ever happen. And it's by applying to this first thing that maybe some other people would be like, oh, like, I don't know, like I have some friends, they're like, oh, I don't really want to apply and I don't know, and like I don't really like rejection. It's like, yeah, but also you're missing out on potentially succeeding, like, on opportunities. So it's like taking these small little, like putting yourself out there and not being scared of rejection, because that's also like, I've also been rejected from things that eventually I got in. And I think these rejections were really important for me to look back and actually look back at the application. I'm like, obviously I didn't get through, it's clear that I wasn't ready.
That's a very,
this was not appropriate.
It's a very acute self-awareness, right? It's recognizing, and I like what you're saying, Faissal, in the sense that fear of rejection should not be an obstacle by itself, right? Because so what? What if we are rejected? I mean, do I take this on board and use it as a motivation to, make sure that I'm not rejected next time? Or is it a blocker that will prevent me from keep on floating? Is it, because you touched on a very interesting notion of asking and receiving, is it reciprocal in the sense, is there a giving moment within this asking and receiving? Do you feel that giving plays an equal role? And giving could be in the sense of sharing my work, sharing my passion, right? It's not necessarily that, oh, I'm waiting for somebody to ask me for something.
No, I mean, giving is there, especially as an artist, when you're putting your work out there.
Yes.
The receiving, comes from very different ways. Like it comes from, and it's really beautiful to see people comment and interact, and like, and it's nice to see the range of people, like whether it's professionals or the general public, or someone that came across my work and is decides to Instagram DM me being like, oh hey, that was super cool, or that really kind of touched me, or so. And I'm doing work that I feel I connect with, and I feel that I think some people are very, very good. And I see my friends that I studied fashion with who work for like big companies, and they're able to channel their creativity into making, commercial products, and into making like, big successes for the companies that they work for. This is not my character, and this is not what drives me. And I used to judge myself for that so much in the beginning. I'd be like, oh, Faissal, like you're so stupid. Like what a waste of your life. Like, you could be you could be traveling the world and having a great time, and here you are feeling sorry for yourself. But in the end, no, I release myself as well from the expectation of what comes back to me. But interestingly enough, what comes back to me is things that reflect what I gave, things that are people that came and they're like, oh my God, this was so like, we really could feel that this was really you, like it's really genuine and it's really you and you're really doing your thing. And I'm like, yes, thank you.
It's really goes back. I mean, it goes back to you saying your love for organic unfolding, and it feels like, because it's so authentic to who you are, like you said, then it comes back naturally. So that floating in the wave is your vibe, is your thing, and it's just kind of, because it's gonna respond back at you in the same way, and it's perpetual movement forward. And I wonder, when you said here, you were beating yourself up at one point, like all these people are out there on their flights, travels, money, etc. Was that one of your most difficult challenges in your career? Like, we asked you about your most, bright period, but what was the most difficult time for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's seeing how the life that I've chosen doesn't really align as well with the life of I would say not most people around me, because now I'm like in an artist bubble. So like anything outside of that is the weird thing. But before, like living in Dubai, most of my friends had stable careers and had this independence that I didn't really have. And I still relatively don't have that. Um, so that's the challenge. The challenge is to make peace with that, and decide whether or not it's worth it. Like, is it worth it for me? Is this what I want? And is it worth the other challenges?
How did you make peace with it? Because you are at peace now. So what was like the tool that you implemented to arrive at making peace with it now?
I think it's trusting, and it's also being genuinely grateful for my blessings, and not being in a position where I'm like, oh, like life was really difficult for, my parents are refugees, they had to start from scratch, the story, like it's just this I wanted to, and I feel really bad to say this right now, like in the context of what's happening, but I wanted to step out of this post-refugee mentality and ground myself and feel comfortable with comfort. And I think that was an important thing for me, is to feel comfortable with comfort and to feel comfortable with gratitude, and to be like, you know what, it's okay. Like if I can do this, then I can do this, and it's okay. Like, and if I'm in a context where I'm able to have a bit more room to focus on my passion and like be genuine for myself with myself, then that should be also fine. Like I'm not my grandparents, I'm not my parents, and it's not by me becoming independent of that I'm also dishonoring or rejecting that experience. On the contrary, it's me it's like, of course, it's me really being grateful. Like this is like this is what I understood of gratitude, where I'm like, being grateful is living my best life. I'm not going to be grateful because there's the other way around, you know, which I see, I think, for the first generation, for my father's generation, or even, you know, other people of even my generation. There is this attachment to that thing where it's like, no, like we went through a lot and we suffered and we rebuilt and we're rebuilding and we need to keep rebuilding. And I'm like, okay, cool, thank you. Appreciate that genuinely with all my heart. I'm so grateful. And in order for me to honor that, and my way of honoring that is to really embrace the opportunity that I have to being my best self.
Yeah. But by doing so, Faissal, what I hear is that it's almost like, and I don't want to characterize it, but you know, it's almost like, you know, what you just described, like we went through this, we suffered, we rebuilt with it's one description of resilience is something that we overuse as a term, right? Resilience, and we talked about that often. And what you're saying is that fine, it's okay to acknowledge all that, but this is how I will move forward. I will not stay stuck in that. This is how I'll move forward. And there's this labeling that goes on, and often people, by acknowledging that label or living that label, they compromise their identity, and by doing so they don't move forward and they don't achieve what they want to achieve,
or live in the sea,
or live in the sea. Exactly. You know, they don't float. They don't float. They're just holding on to that boulder that is in their way. And I think what you have accomplished and what you are accomplishing is celebrating your identity without carrying on the mislabeling that people might attach to it.
There's a lot of spaciousness in that gratitude, the way you have spoken to it. Yeah.
And it's also the reality, like I think visiting Palestine for the first time 10 years ago now, and a second time later on, and really spending time and meeting people, you're like, joy is there. Like it's not, there's joy, and why wouldn't there be joy? You know what I mean? Like, why would you deny yourself joy?
Yes.
I don't know, like there's so many things where you're like, there's joy in, even amidst the most horrible things, this is also resilience. Resilience is refusing to be broken down, you know, and and a way to refuse to be broken down is to, you know, live your best life.
There's a great also vulnerability in that. To be honest, just even sharing this is, you know, it's like it's two sides of the same coin, and that the vulnerability of saying yes to gratitude in spite of all of this, yes to joy, yes to my guilt and now letting go of my guilt, yes to my identity and then letting go of a little bit of it for the sake of healing. That's a lot of vulnerable statements to be able to open up and speak to it. And it feels like this is a moment for you, at least as an artist, where this is, I witnessed some of that. There's a lot of creativity in that level of vulnerability that is actually resilience, but is actually expansive and moving forward with it. There's a lot of creativity in that.
It is a journey. And you know, you guys are convincing me now about this open sea floating rather than the river meandering, you know, but it's like any sea voyage, you know. Has it been with others?
I think the role of others is important, especially because I am independent and I don't really have a team of people. Like I used to work with freelancers when I used to do my fashion business, freelancer suppliers, and so the role of other becomes quite important because it's a genuine collaboration, and it's not like someone that you're stuck with and like, okay, I have to work with these people because these are my colleagues and this is the goal that we're achieving. So I've always had this very flexible relationship with others, and especially now in the art, in my art studies, the MFA that I did a couple of years ago. the others have been really important. Like this is how you grow, and this is by being confronted with how your work is impacting other people and listening to their opinion, and you also learning to use your voice. And it's really, I really developed using my voice in the past 3 years living here, and especially in the context of that master's program where you're trained to give your opinion. And I love to give my opinion, so this is perfect for me. But this is only possible through a level of understanding of others and of empathy towards others, where it's like you want to approach the other, and I want to be approached with empathy. And in these contexts of safe environments where there's this understanding of the other, and there's a genuine interest to receive this opinion, then that can create magic, because you're like, wow, like I didn't see it the way you saw it, but thank you for sharing that, and that's going to impact me, and I'm going to go back and think about it, and this is how the work can grow. You can't do any creative work in your little silo. It doesn't work. It's not good. It's not good work.
Well, we reached out to some of the others, surrounding you, and they were very generous to share their relationship with you, and ask you questions that they hope that you can answer them. So I'm gonna play the first question that we have received.
كيف تشبه فلسطين؟ كيف فلسطين تشبهك? Or in other words, in which ways does Palestine resemble you, and in which ways do you resemble Palestine? That's my question for you today, Faissal. And I want to say that I miss you and I miss Lina, and I'm looking forward to when the episode is out. Love you both.
This is Haya Farah, who's a dear friend from Five Rhythms Dance, led by Lina. So it's interesting for us all to be here. And I love spending time with Haya because we always have like really, really deep conversations. So it's great. I love Haya. So this is a great question. Well, for a long time, I didn't really know how. I think having the chance to visit Palestine was the most life-changing experience for me, like in my life. And it really allowed me to contextualize myself and to understand my belonging to a place, because before that I was just not connected to anything or anywhere, and I was just really, really confused about who I was and what it meant to be who I am, and like what baggage like that came with, and like, do I want to keep it, and do I want to dispose of it, and why and how, and the guilt and the confusion. And then suddenly I went to Palestine, and things just landed in my body. Like I really felt my body just really like root itself in the earth. And it's just like, wow, I've never actually felt this before. I didn't know that this existed. I didn't know that this was a thing. And it's the intuitive thing, like the intuitive experience of being in the land, but it's also others. Like it's also making friends that were, similar to me, similar interests, where we were able to have genuine kind of friendships, and I was like, wow, like this could have been me. I'm not this like alien in this context, like. And also things like hearing the accent of people from the north, from Haifa and from Nazareth, and hearing my mother's accent, who herself wasn't born in Palestine. She was born in 1949, so a year after they left. but hearing that accent still alive in people my age, where I'm like, oh, wow, I did not realize that
Yeah.
this was from a place. Like I didn't understand that this accent was not this random thing. It's like it's grounded in this particular place, and it says something about who we are, and it's just like it was mind-blowing. And like, talking to people, and they're like, oh, what's your family name? I'll be like this. They're like, oh, okay, interesting. Yes, this family is from here, and we know this. Even yesterday, I was catching up with a friend who's from Haifa, who's in London right now, and basically through some research and through asking, I found the buildings that were owned by my maternal great-grandfather. And this historian, Johnny Mansour from Haifa, told me, yes, I know where the buildings are. They're on this street, and now it's called this name. And so I Google mapped it. I found you can do the walking Google thing.
Yes.
So I found the buildings, and I confirmed with my aunt who left when she was 14, so she remembers it. She confirmed, she's like, these are the ones. And yesterday, casually, I was talking to my friend from Haifa. I was like, oh, I was telling him the story, and I was showing him the building. He's like, oh, yes, these buildings were actually for sale a few years ago.
Oh,
and I'm like, how crazy is it that this is 76 years later, this person knows about these buildings. He doesn't know who owned them and all of this stuff, but it's part of the reality of living there. It's not like we're completely disconnected and this is like another world. So I don't know what the question was anymore, but anyway, all of that to say is that visiting Palestine, visiting Palestine really grounded me, and I'm at peace with what it means to be Palestinian,
I can answer part of this as I hear you, if you don't mind, which is, no matter how much we're floating or you're floating, we always know where we are in a way. We are like, no matter how much we're floating, there's always those compasses. The compass is always there and never lost, whether it's where you come from, where you're going. There's something way bigger than us holding these threads for us, unbeknownst to us sometimes. And you have these little serendipitous moments that you've just spoken about, and to remind you, and I find that is magic. Like that to me is finding Neverland,
Totally.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
I have one more question from another acquaintance before we wrap up the episode.
Really, how important do you think the role of a mentor is? And do people really understand the role of the mentor?
Naz Jibril, who is a dear friend of mine, and she became a mentor, through her capacity as the CEO of Dubai Design and Fashion Council, and then also through her experience even before that, not like in a more informal capacity. I would seek her advice because of her experience in fashion and all of that. I think the role of the mentor is important, and it really helped me. I mean, Naz helped me a lot. I had another mentor in fashion who also really helped me kind of mold my vision into something that's more accessible and more sellable in a way, which I took this advice, but I made it my own. So there is this push and pull with a mentor. Like, I don't think a mentor is there to give you all the answers. I think a mentor is there to just nudge you in the directions that need a bit more work.
And do you see your role evolving, or do you see a place in your journey to mentor younger artists or designers? Do you see the need for that in the region, in the Middle East region, to nurture such talent that probably may not have the answers to the questions they have, and the role of a mentor becomes essential for their career?
I mean, yes, and it's again, like to go back to the MFA in fine art that I just finished, there's a big emphasis on studio visits, on peers coming to, look at your work and to have a discussion. And this is a big part of learning. And I've just done some studio visits for some students, art students in Abu Dhabi, which was great. And I think, this kind of format is also very useful. It's useful to me as an artist, and it's also very useful to me as a mentor, as someone that can go and like look at, spend half an hour discussing work and try to like come up with an answer and give some sort of conclusion in the end of how this work impacted me, and what I saw were the key moments. So I think mentorship is definitely important, yes, and I think people need to accept that. And I feel that it's something that we need to, in the region, we kind of actually need to grow into that a bit more, and accept to receive and mentorship and give mentorship, and accept that relationship, and not accept it in a this archaic way of the leader and the leader and the students, and like the leader has all the answers. No,
it's more of a debate.
A debate and a dialogue. That's right, and quite a bit of freedom as well. That is very necessary. From what I'm hearing from you, also freedom is really essential for you, in order for you to find the place for your voice to come through. The one that you were speaking to. What piece of advice would you give to either somebody you're mentoring who's far younger, or let's say if you were to give that advice to the young Faissal, who is like 10, let's say, or 7, or whatever.
Not 15 anymore?
Or 15, or I just feel 13 and 15 is... It's just like... What would be a good advice that is coming from your experience?
I think, honestly, like, not to bring it back to 5 rhythms, but I am going to bring it back to 5 rhythms.
Oh gosh.
Is to move, really. I think I learned so much from moving, and I learned so much from
physically, you mean?
Physically moving, yeah. Physically moving, because there's nothing that can replace, there's no amount of intellectual gymnastics, and no amount of thinking that can replace moving, but not moving in a regimented way. Really exploring the boundaries of your body, and exploring how your body is truly the tool that you have in order to exist. And the sooner I connected with my body, and with the joy and the expression, and the boundaries in an expressive way, not the boundaries of like, oh, how much weight can I pull, and how much, the boundaries in how expressive can I be, and how uncomfortable can I be, and how angry can I be, and how joyful can I be, and how all of these emotions can be expressed through movement and through my body. And even if the movement is not a movement, even if the movement is stillness, you know what I mean? So it's just so great that we have this tool, and this is what I would say. I would say don't hide, like, don't be shy, don't hide, and find these things that can make you happy, and find these situations, and find these people, and find your people. Your people are out there, and just let go of this like tension, and move. Take it easy.
We can't thank you enough for what you have shared with us, the authenticity you shared it with, your state of floating that is so contagious, but above all, the love that you shared with us, with yourself, with our audience, and we wish you nothing but further success, and more importantly, joy and pleasure in achieving this success, as you keep moving forward in your amazing journey.
As you dance forward,
As you dance,
as you dance through life.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faissal.
This has been Forward Moves, hosted by Lina, Nahhas and Raja Haddad, a conversation about the path of the successful journey of Faissal El-Malak. This has been recorded at the Podster Studios in Dubai. Our producer is Aziz. And if you really liked this episode and you were inspired by it and it made you think, please do leave a comment for us and rate us 5 stars and share it with your friends. Until then, keep moving forward.